Aloha everybody, it's Aloha Friday live video, September 28th, 2018. I'm going to let you guys all gather around and we're going to be talking with Gary. He is a Leilani resident, so I'm going to let everybody kind of gather. Aloha bunny, hey, how's it going? Let everybody gather in or gather around, and I'm going to talk to Gary here about his experience. He is literally a few hundred yards from Fisher 8. That's where his house is. And okay, so we got a good crew. Hey, what's up, Peter? Aloha, everybody. Awesome. Okay, so how's the picture? What's the picture look like? Picture and sound. Is it good? Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Okay, nice picture. Cool. Okay, awesome, guys. Okay, so if I don't answer all your questions, I'm sorry. I'll try to get to all the questions, but we're going to start off by introducing Gary. Gary, will you introduce yourself?
Hey, is anybody looking at me, or
No, we're just...
I'm not on film yet.
No, okay. Gary's not on film. Maybe later we can put Gary on film. He's been working on this property today, and I've noticed that, you know, we're about a couple hundred yards from Fisher 8, and I did smell a little bit of SO2 today. The wind wasn't as strong, and it just picked up as I showed up at Gary's house. So that is interesting. Gary has lived in Leilani for 11 years, 15 years, and he got the phone call from a neighbor that the lava was erupting in Leilani Estates on May 3rd, and I was actually at his house. So I was at his house helping him set up a fence, and we got the call, and I had to run home and get everything ready. And that was, what, about noonish? Yeah, about lunchtime, maybe 11 o'clock, I think it was. And then I went to go check the lava about 1 o'clock, or a little bit after, maybe a little bit after noon. So first I want to give Gary some plants, because you can see he has a Macnut orchard, and what we're looking at is his neighbor's property, and they were about to build a house, and you can just see that there was really good or fairly good privacy, and the plants, you know, when they're alive, but the SO2 and the acid rain has killed them off. So I want to show you the plants that I brought Gary. First, I brought him a snowflake tree. This is from Asia, and it's an ornamental. It's pretty cool. I think so. I think Gary will enjoy planting this. Gary's definitely a plant guy, aren't you, Gary?
That's what they tell me. Yeah.
I think he likes plants more than people. So we have this, and it's, you know, an ornamental, but it'll provide some, you know, screen or, you know, some privacy, because this place has lost a lot of privacy since all the plants have died. And the SO2 and the acid rain have made his orchard of cacao and Macnuts just almost all die. And you've seen a video. I'll link videos that I have done with Gary. He did the video of chocolate, one of my most popular videos. I'm an apprentice to him. He's a chocolatier, and I'll link in the description box a bunch of videos that Gary's helped me with. So I gave him this, and this will be a great screen. And then I gave him some kava, or ava. In Hawaiian, it's called ava with an A, and the rest of the world knows it as kava with a K. And this can be used as a drink. The root can be ground up, dried, and used as a kind of a religious, spiritual, relaxing, Polynesian alcoholic, not quite alcoholic, but medicinal plant. And this is very popular in Southeast Asia and Polynesian cultures. This is kava. So this is very very traditional. This is one of the canoe plants. So the Hawaiians, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, brought this in a canoe to Hawaii, and they use it as a, like I said, kind of a spiritual, religious, kind of relaxing alcoholic drink. But not alcoholic, I don't want to say alcoholic. But it just relaxes you, and it tastes like dirt. So what you do is you mix it with coconut and kava. That's how the kings would drink it. So I brought these to Gary. And, okay Gary, so what has FEMA? So FEMA has helped you out with rent. You don't really have too many bad things to say about FEMA, because I know that's a very interesting topic with a lot of people.
Well, I'm sure they do some things that people don't like, but they have been helpful.
Okay, so they've helped you.
It's way better than nothing.
Yeah, because they've helped him, because he could not live here for what, 4 months?
Yeah.
And the electricity just got turned on in Leilani, or at least on the street that Gary lives at. So he could move back in pretty much any time. I want to know, can you guys hear Gary? I want to see. Aloha, everybody. Okay, so you can hear Gary. Okay, cool. So FEMA's done you right. It wasn't that big of a hassle, and it was pretty smooth after they've seen your property. I mean, anybody that's seen your property could know that you can't just live here when the eruption was going off.
No, they wouldn't let the FEMA guys in here to look at it in the first place. So
Yeah.
they couldn't come until after everybody could come back.
So they were having a trouble getting in here, even though they're super official. I mean, they're federal. They supersede everyone, right?
Unless your house was officially declared destroyed, they didn't have to look at it because there wasn't nothing to see except lava.
Yeah.
And then they took care of that right away.
And that was civil defense. They were kind of limiting access to this area heavily, and they would not allow some of the inspectors in to inspect. But I guess there was a reason for that.
Well, they're not allowed to come in either. Until they lift the mandatory evacuation zone, they can't come.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
just stand there and look at you across the river, and
Or-
say, well,
Or call you
We'll
from
be there
Pahoa. Or call you from Pahoa and go, hey, can you meet me in Pahoa?
yeah.
So you had a good experience with FEMA. It's not, it's better than nothing, and it's not bad. But these tourist helicopters, they are flying real low because the temporary flight restriction has been lifted. So now they can fly at like 500 feet and really check out the disaster zone. And you can probably hear that. I think a lot of my videos in this area are just going to have tourist helicopters. So Gary, you evacuated pretty much on May 3rd, right? May 4th?
5th.
You evacuated May 5th. So he is near Fissure 9. That's the one, or was it 8 that drove you away?
Well, 8's the one that's spewing out most of the cinder.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
But I mean in the beginning, I think it was the beginning of 8, because it was on Lawana, because I remember talking to you that night, and you're like, it's so loud over here. Yeah, it was 8, the beginning of 8, because it stopped after like a couple of weeks or whatever, and then it started back up again, and it was the Big Daddy from there on. So Gary was living, or is living near Fissure 8. Maybe you'll move in a little while, but you got electricity. That's really good. So he evacuated right as Fissure 8 was going off on May 5th. I think Fissure 8 opened up. Maybe we could be wrong, but it was definitely the one on Lawana Street that drove Gary out, and he had to stay away for 3-4 months before they could allow people and lift the mandatory evacuation. Now, okay, so I'm going to answer some questions. I believe some of the viewers have some questions. The volcano right now has actually been very dormant. All of the fissures are just spewing at the most SO2 gases. And right now there is a little bit of strong SO2 smell because the wind is it's not very breezy, and when it's variable the SO2 is stronger. So you have grown mac nuts and cacao mainly here, and then you had some vanilla. I know you're doing plenty of vanilla.
Yeah, it died right away.
Yeah, it was one of the first to go. And then the mac nuts we're looking at, you can see on the screen, are almost gone.
I think
Right?
they're probably dead, and if they're not, the bugs are boring into them pretty bad. You see the sawdust all around the bottom.
So they were weakened from the SO2 and the acid rain, and then the bugs are getting to these mac nut trees, so he's gonna probably have to cut them down and start over. Now, Gary, you're not a young guy, so you're gonna have to really conserve when you rebuild, or you're obviously gonna stay here and try to make it as normal as possible.
Exactly.
So that Gary's story is fairly common in this area. There's a lot of semi-retired people living in Leilani, and when this happened, they're just not. There wasn't a lot of young people here, so it was very interesting to see. Okay, just to see the demographic of this place, compared to when I was living here, in the 80s and early 90s. So we're looking at my buddy's neighbor, my friend Gary, and this was a neighbor that was building a property, and that story is very common. Somebody was building a property, they almost got it completed, and now the lava happened. So we have plenty of tourist helicopters. Okay, so you plan to rebuild, Gary, right? You plan to rebuild and just do the best you can.
Won't be building a whole lot, but plant some more trees, probably.
Okay, so I think that's good. It's a Aloha Friday. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'm going to answer some questions, and I'm going to think about wrapping it up. Let's see what we have here. Aloha, Bobby. Yeah, we're in the zone. We're about 300 yards from Fisher 8, I'd say, maybe like.
Well, you can see it. It's right there.
Yeah, I mean maybe like 3 football fields, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. It's really close to Gary's house, and Gary is close to the street that Fisher 8 opened up on. It opened up on Leilani, and it just did a lot of damage eventually. So let's see. Yeah, the bugs, he doesn't really have a lot of fire ants. Have you been bitten by fire ants?
Haven't seen a fire ants since it started.
And before this eruption,
oh, there was plenty.
He had a problem with fire ants. So I think the bugs that survived are the borer beetles, right? And maybe a couple other bugs. I mean, some of the flies, we got some flies back here now, and there's plenty of mosquitoes, I think. But, or, that kind of, bugs, or, the flying ones are back. But it seems like, and you've been working in the yard for a couple of weeks now, week and a half now, and you would have known if there was fire ants.
Oh, I'd have been stung by now, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that is the one saving grace, the benefit of having acid rain and SO2, is the fire ants were a real nuisance here, an invasive species. So there is no fire ants. It'd be safe to say you're pretty good for now.
For a while.
Yeah, but you want to still.
They'll be back.
Be careful. We have to check the plants that I gave Gary. I made sure there wasn't any fire ants, but he's going to make sure there isn't any because he doesn't want to bring any fire ants onto his property. And that's how you get him, is you bring in a palm from a nursery, or you bring in your buddy that has fire ants, gives you a plant, and then all of a sudden, if they're not careful, you spread the fire ants. And I know even in like Florida, they have a huge fire ant problem, right? And then the hurricanes, they will pool up on like a boat and they'll survive even the hurricanes.
Yeah,
and you'll see
they
big puddle.
Float on themselves.
Yeah, they have like a raft on themselves. So Fire ants are really hard to kill, and we have the tiny ones. We have the small ones. I know Florida has the bigger ones.
Yeah.
They're like twice the size.
See them coming.
Yeah, and Jeff actually was in Florida a couple years ago, and he told me, man, I got so bit up. You think it's bad here? It's really bad there. And I'm like, really? Oh, wow. You know, and Jeff is one of our neighbors, a mutual friend that we know. Okay, so I'm going to answer some more questions. Mac nuts, yes. I don't think you're going to replant mac nuts. What will you replant, Gary?
Well, I think I might. Something that I know about.
Okay, so he might actually.
But
you want
there
to
isn't
show
a
him?
whole lot else. If
You
I don't plant cacao, what am I going to plant?
You want to show him these?
A bunch of
Maybe a little bit up. Yeah, a little bit closer.
bunch of sick, dead nuts off the trees. They all died right on the tree, and they're still hanging there.
Yeah.
With mold and everything all over, and they're absolutely no good.
So the SO2 and the acid rain really affected them, and then the beetle, the borer beetle, which we've already had problems with for, I mean, as long as I can. I mean, it's always a problem.
More of these borers now than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, and then we're having trouble with the actual pig, the borers, and
oh,
they're
the
roaming.
borers?
Yeah, I was talking about the borer beetle, but
boar?
yeah. So the borers are definitely, you know, without a lot of human action, you know, no hunters are, you know, hunting in here. We gotta get that bow going and start hunting in here, Gary.
Well,
you know?
yeah.
Because can't use a gun, but we could definitely use a bow, and that would be, you know, I mean, we could see really good in here now.
No kidding.
You know, we could, you know, get them without them running and hiding, because in the jungle there's so many hidden spots, but this area has definitely had a mass plant die-off. Okay, so I'm going to go to the questions. Yeah, mac nuts were imported here in the 1950s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not native. And Gary did have quite a few native plants. You had like lilikoi, and you did have some.
Just about everything.
Yeah, just about
everything.
Yeah. He really likes bromeliads, and earlier in the video I said that he likes plants more than humans, and that's definitely true. Mac nut orchard. How old is this mac nut orchard?
Some of the larger trees probably been here about 40 years.
40 years, because this is one of the first farms
orchards
in Leilani, and one of the first mac nut farms in pretty much this area, really.
Yep.
I can smell a little bit of SO2. The wind is variable, so it's not blowing in the right direction, and I can kind of smell a little bit. So that's, you know, that's probably going to go on for another month or two, like that. Yeah, so you're thinking about mac nuts and then whatever you can. You want to do a bunch of cacao, right? You're probably going to replant cacao.
Yeah, I can get the trees pretty easy.
And then
it's something I know, but it's going to be a long time.
But the mac nuts, they're about 10 years before they really start fruiting.
You can do okay in 5 if you do it all right, but.
And the same with the cacao. You could probably do 5 or 7 and start getting some kind of product or you know, produce off of that. Okay, yeah, we're about 300 yards from Fisher 8. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you had any questions and I didn't get to them, I'm sorry. Or you can watch the video. Maybe I answered your question in the beginning of the video. Yes, the soil is very acidic. You tested it, right?
I tested the water the other day, and
Okay.
it was under 3.
Okay, so that's...
So it's pretty acidic, yeah.
So his water catchment is very acidic. Under a 3 is really not good. So I imagine the soil might be pretty bad as well.
Hard to say.
Yeah, maybe it got washed out with the hurricanes and everything. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you guys for watching. Much mahalo, aloha, and I will have a video up in the next couple days. I'll probably go by the coast. And yeah, a pH of 3 is really, or under 3, yeah, is really, really low. So I'm going to thank you for liking. Please give this a thumbs up. If you guys could give this video a thumbs up right now, that would be awesome. And I wanna look for the other videos I've done. I've showed that in the other videos.
Yeah.
I'll provide that information in the description box. Aloha, Peter, the Red Rover. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna take off, and I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. It's been an awesome Aloha Friday. So if I didn't answer your question, I'm sorry about that. I will get to you maybe one of your questions next week or in another video. So until next time, ahui hau, aloha.